Well, with Omicron cases on the rise, some cruise lines are adding a booster shot requirement to sail. Plus, thousands of people are rejecting the advice from the CDC that says you should not cruise right now. And health and tourism departments in Mexico say that all cruise ships will now be received in Mexican ports. All this coming up on Midships. Hey, welcome to the Midships YouTube channel. I'm your Captain Corey, and Happy New Year to you and your family. Thanks so much for stopping by the channel today, and I'd like to be one of the first to welcome you into the new year, 2022. If you haven't yet had the chance to watch the Midships episode from yesterday, I would highly recommend doing so. At the very beginning of the episode, there's a look back at 2021, followed by all my resolutions going forward in 2022. You definitely don't want to miss any of it. Now, with the new advice coming from the CDC just a few days ago to avoid cruise travel at all costs, I have some stories coming from all over the country of cruisers who say, why the heck would we do that? Let's start with one coming out of Galveston. From KHOU 11, we're not overly concerned. Passengers boarding in Galveston react to the new CDC warning. By Jason Miles. Disney's Wonder cruise ship finally landed at Galveston Friday morning following a fog delay. It eventually docked alongside the Carnival Vista in the port. Both ships were set to sail once again into the new year with thousands of passengers on board. Mike Blackman and his family came here from Colorado for an 8-day Caribbean cruise. Mike said, we're going to make the best of it. We're on vacation. I mean, there's a lot of safety measures on board, no different than going to a packed restaurant. So we're just going to try and do the right thing here and be safe. The CDC increased its cruise ship advisory Thursday to level 4. Avoid cruise travel regardless of your vaccine status. The advisory added that the chance of getting COVID on cruises is very high and cited a number of recent outbreaks. Francina Lewis, a frequent cruiser, said, I believe that Carnival wouldn't let us board a cruise if it was that bad and that toxic. And from Galveston, Texas, out east to Mobile, Alabama, the opinions about the new CDC advisory keep rolling in. Let's learn more from Fox 10 News. Local cruise travel industry reacts to the CDC warning. In Mobile, Alabama, the cruise industry is reacting to the Centers for Disease Control warning for people to avoid cruising. Andrea Miller of See It All Travel says, I feel much safer on a cruise ship than I do picking up my groceries at Walmart. The travel agent in Mobile has personally been on 4 cruises since September, and she says with extreme safety measures in place, people are ready to cruise again. She went on to say, pre-pandemic, about 80% of her business was cruising. That's almost returned since cruises began. People are very eager to get back on board the ships. Most everyone who's canceled in 2020 and 2021 has already rebooked, and quite a few of them have already sailed. And 2 of Andrea's clients, Charlie and Jennifer Dino, spent the new year aboard the Carnival Pride in Cozumel, Mexico. The couple says that COVID protocols on board were more than enough. According to the largest cruise industry trade group, CLIA, in the US alone, the cruise industry administers nearly 10 million tests per week. 21 times the rate of testing on land in the US. And from Texas to Alabama, now to the shores of the cruise capital of the world, Florida, we're going to hear more and more people rejecting the new guidance coming from the CDC and saying we feel perfectly safe on cruise ships. From clickorlando.com. Thousands reject CDC advice, board cruise ships for vacations amid a rise in COVID cases. Cruising into the new year, thousands of passengers are rejecting the CDC's advice not to sail as COVID cases reach record numbers in the US. The CDC issued its guidance despite every passenger 12 and older being required to be fully vaccinated. Miriam De La Pez, an Independence of the Seas passenger, says, we're praying to God that everything works out okay. The Port St. Lucie, Florida-based family said when they heard the new guidance on Thursday, they considered canceling their Royal Caribbean trip, but ultimately still wanted to ring in the new year out at sea. De Paz said, we decided life is life. We've got to live it and just have a good time together as a family. More families who still boarded Independence of the Seas on Friday included the Baileys from Maryland, who said they've been holding onto their tickets since the cruise shut down nearly 2 years ago. Azura Bailey said, I feel like we'll be all right as long as we keep to ourselves. And Royal Caribbean CEO Richard Fain wrote in a statement Thursday, we don't like to see even one case, but our experience is a fraction of the comparable statistics of virtually any other comparable location or industry right now. Royal Caribbean said since restarting in the summer, 1,700 of its 1.1 million guests tested positive, with only 41 of those passengers needing to go to a hospital, and none of those 41 with the new variant. So as you can see, like we've said all along on the Midships channel, thousands and thousands of people all across the country of all walks of life know that cruising is one of the safest places you can be right now during this global pandemic, especially during the spike of Omicron. All of the data, all of the numbers coming out from the cruise industry versus numbers coming out from the CDC and local health departments point out that cruising is much safer and there is a much lower incidence of people being infected on board a cruise ship than on land. So I'd like to hear your opinion on the folks who decided to get aboard cruise ships despite this new level 4 announcement coming out of the CDC. Go ahead and put it down in the comments below. I know in response to yesterday's video, I had some really insightful and fascinating commentary. A lot of people were comparing the bowl games, Las Vegas, all different types of establishments that people go to where there's thousands or hundreds of thousands of people gathered that you don't know anything about those people. Now, before we get into our next story, I want to remind you all the articles referenced in today's Midships episode will be linked in the description below this video. While you're down there, I'd invite you to check out the link to the brand new Midships Instagram page. It's just Midships Cruise if you'd like to search for it. I'll also post a link up here in the upper right-hand corner of this video. And while you're down there looking in my description box, there are some Amazon affiliate links to some cruise swag that I would highly recommend you have for every cruise you take. The best part about it is most of the swag costs $10 or less, and just clicking on the links does help support this channel just a little bit. Now back to the cruise news. And over the last couple of weeks, we've reported on a handful of ships being turned away from ports in the Caribbean and down in Mexico. Now, the Mexican health and tourism departments have come out and sort of changed their tune. Let's learn a little bit more from RivieraMayaNews.com. The Federal Health and Tourism Secretaries would like to reiterate their commitment to respect the provisions of the international health regulations of the WHO, for which cruise ships will be received in a country's maritime ports. So, in accordance with the protocols established both in Mexico and internationally, cruise ships that request to dock in the country will be received at Mexican ports. So we have a little glimmer of hope coming from our friends down in Mexico. Now, over the past month or two, I have warned on this channel that booster shots are most likely going to be a requirement on cruises at some point. Now, we have a story coming from thepointsguy.com about some cruise lines that are now requiring booster shots. Sit down, you're going to want to hear this. From thepointsguy.com by Gene Sloan. With Omicron cases soaring, some cruise lines are adding COVID booster shot requirements. P&O Cruises on Monday will become the first cruise line to require passengers to get booster shots against COVID to board a ship as cases of the Omicron variant continue to rise around the world. The UK-based cruise operator recently notified some customers on a long 35-night sailing to the Caribbean scheduled to begin Monday that they would need to show proof of such booster shots to go ahead with the trip. The new booster requirement only applies to the single sailing beginning Monday out of Southampton on P&O. P&O Cruises' sister company, Cunard Line, also plans to implement a booster shot requirement for at least one unusually long 28-night voyage from Southampton to the Caribbean, scheduled to begin January 14th. In a recent letter sent to booked passengers on that sailing, Cunard said they would need to show proof of the booster shot, in addition to proof of a full vaccine at least 2 weeks prior to their trip. The cruise industry has been the most aggressive in the segment of the travel industry in requiring customers to be fully vaccinated against COVID. And don't forget, the Cunard's Queen Mary 2 is in the middle of a 28-day trip from Southampton to New York down to the Caribbean, in which they've had a few unfortunate issues, the first of which happened when they docked in New York. There were about 10 positive cases of COVID on board the ship. Those individuals were disembarked and are quarantining in New York City. It's been about 10 days since that happened, so those passengers should already be home or on their way home right now. So obviously, in light of this, Cunard has reassessed what needs to happen in order to be able to sail on these longer trips. As we're wrapping up today's episode, I do want to remind you that with it being January 1st, we are only 2 weeks away now from the supposed end of the CDC's conditional sailing order. But given the rise in Omicron, I wouldn't be surprised if they reconsider and push it out a few more months, at least until the warmer weather seasons. Go ahead and give me your opinion on this in the comments below. If you made it this far into today's video, why haven't you subscribed to our channel yet? We have a goal of having 10,000 subscribers on this channel by March 17th of this year. Go ahead and give me an early birthday present. Hit the subscribe button if you've been on the fence. Thanks so much for stopping by the channel today, and until tomorrow, we'll see ya on the Midships.
la 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 la.